Star Fox is magic. I mean that literally. How else could they get a game like this running on the Super Nintendo? The player controls pilot Fox McCloud as he flies through 3D environments while shooting stuff and rocking out to kickin' tunes. It's expertly designed and full of personality. Outside of an understandably choppy frame rate, this game still holds up all these years later. I mean, how does this game exist? Was it the Super FX chip? Nah, it was magic. While a sequel was in development for the Super Nintendo, that version was shelved, making the Nintendo 64 the home to Star Fox's second official game. In many ways, Star Fox 64 acts as a better version of the first game, delivering stellar visuals and a much smoother gameplay experience. Fox and his allies travel through the Lilat system, get into mini dogfights, and take down the evil Andross. Star Fox 64 is a classic for a reason. It fully realizes what a Star Fox game should be, leaving little to improve upon. The game did well commercially. Fox would appear in Super Smash Bros., and screaming "do a barrel roll" at people was funny for longer than it probably should have been. One would expect a publisher with a hit game from a young franchise to capitalize on its success, releasing many more thrilling space shooters in the following years. But that didn't happen. Star Fox 64 is a great game, but part of me thinks it's a little too good. Star Fox 64 casts a massive shadow that looms over the rest of the franchise. Every subsequent game in the series seems to both respect it and fear it. Maybe it's because I sit around and think about video game franchises all day, but I've noticed a pattern that crops up from time to time. The first game in a series sets the groundwork, but leaves some room to grow. Its follow-up capitalizes on that potential, but leaves little more to be explored. Sometimes the series just stops after that, kind of like how Valve is afraid of the number 3 for some reason. But other times the series keeps going. Except there's a problem. If the second game in a series fulfills everything the original set out to do, what more is there to do? I've narrowed it down to 3 franchises that have this problem and go about solving it in wildly different ways. Let's explore sequels so good they kinda ruin their series. In 2012, French publication Game Cult interviewed Nintendo star designer Shigeru Miyamoto. At one point, the interviewer asked about the long-dormant F-Zero series and the possibility of a new entry on the Wii U, citing a recent Twitter poll to show public support. "I am really pleased to hear Twitter's opinion," Miyamoto responded, "because since the first episode on SNES, many games have been made, but the series has evolved very little. I thought people had grown weary of it. I'm also very curious, and I'd like to ask those people, why F-Zero? What do you want that we haven't done before?" Needless to say, we didn't get that F-Zero game. The last F-Zero game Miyamoto produced was 2003's F-Zero GX on the Gamecube. Like Star Fox 64, it takes the idea introduced in the original SNES game and brings it to its natural conclusion. A follow-up, according to Miyamoto at least, would just retread the same ground. Miyamoto is a producer on both series, but unlike F-Zero, Star Fox got several more chances to prove itself. In the 2000s, 3 brand new Star Fox games hit store shelves, and each one attempts to prove that Star Fox is about a lot more than just flying spaceships. Okay, so imagine you're a kid in 2002 in the video game section of a Walmart and you see this behind the glass. There's a new Star Fox game, sweet. So you buy it, pop it into your GameCube, and are greeted with this opening.
General Scales! Keo Krisoa, Dut Uwe Kutsak.
What in the world? After this, you meet the Star Fox team. There's a flying section, and then Fox runs around on a planet full of dinosaurs. He uses a staff to fight off enemies. He solves puzzles. He befriends a spunky dino kid named Tricky, who never stops talking. What's going on here? If it isn't obvious, Star Fox Adventures started life as a completely different game, an action-adventure title called Dinosaur Planet by developer Rare. At that point, Rare had been on an absolute winning streak, developing some of the best games on the Nintendo 64. Dinosaur Planet was set to be another one. It would feature 2 characters, Saber the Wolf and Crystal the Fox, as they travel around the titular world. Around the same time, Nintendo was brainstorming ways to bring Star Fox back. Miyamoto was adamant that the next game not be an on-rails shooter, but an action-adventure game. You probably already know where this is going. Dinosaur Planet was retrofitted to become the next Star Fox game. Saber was swapped out for Fox, development shifted to the Gamecube, and certain aspects were reworked to fit with the new IP. Because of this, it pushes Star Fox in a new direction. What does Fox do when he's not in a vehicle? How does he interact with characters who aren't members of his team or rival pilots? The series could continue in this direction too. A great majority of the game takes place on one planet, so a potential Adventures follow-up could feature Fox and the gang traveling across another planet in the Lilat system. Crystal or one of the other Star Fox team members could take on a larger role. Adventures leaves a lot of potential to grow and push Star Fox to become something else. But it wasn't meant to be. Star Fox Adventures released on the GameCube on September 23, 2002 in North America. On September 24th, Rare was acquired by Microsoft Game Studios. The chance of another Rare-developed Star Fox game vanished a single day after release. Even before Adventures dropped, news of a fourth Star Fox game was already circulating. Star Fox Assault takes things in another direction, albeit one that feels more natural. A species of robotic insects called aperoids are invading the Lilat system, and it's up to Team Star Fox to put a stop to them. The game takes place across a series of self-contained missions that take a variety of forms. The classic on-rails space shooter missions return, business as usual. Other missions have Fox take on hordes of aperoids on foot using different weapons. In some missions, he can hop into a Landmaster tank or take to the skies in an aerial dogfight. These missions are fast and chaotic. Fox is just running his ass off. I mean, look at him go! The controls are a little slippery, but a generous lock-on system makes things easier. Star Fox Assault kind of reminds me of the Star Wars Battlefront games on the PS2, just a lot of stuff happening at once. While the story is self-contained, it picks up where 64 and Adventures left off. Crystal has officially joined the team, adding some much-needed girl power to the squad. They even return to the planet from Adventures and hang out with Tricky the dinosaur. If anything could have been written out of the story, it would have been Tricky and this planet. But nah, the team remembers what happened in the previous game. Star Fox Assault's biggest crime is its length. There are only 10 missions in the entire game. Unlike in 64, there aren't any branching paths or alternate endings. 10 missions. That's it. This is another direction the series could potentially go in. We've been inside vehicles, we've been on foot. What happens when the two get combined? Since the game is so short, it leaves room for this style of Star Fox to grow. But this also wasn't meant to be. The following year, a new Star Fox game flew onto the DS, Star Fox Command. This entry, like the previous two, brings several new ideas to the table. Each mission in Command functions kind of like a strategy game. The player has a limited number of turns to direct the ships across an overhead map. If a ship runs into an enemy or base, it will trigger a battle, which will task the player with gunning down certain targets as efficiently as possible. Battles share a single time limit, adding to the tension of these dogfights. Different pilots have different strengths and weaknesses. Fox's ship has a charge beam, whereas Slippy's doesn't, for example. This asks the player to be strategic on the world map and an ace pilot in the battles. Defeat all the opponents and the mission will be complete. Command also features many branching story paths, way more than what's seen in 64. At the end of each story scene, the player must decide where to go next. This will dictate which stages and characters will appear. This entry introduces some new characters, like Peppy's daughter Lucy and Slippy's fiancée Amanda. There are 9 unique endings that the player can stumble across, so there's quite a bit of replayability. But after a while, the cracks start to show. The planets might look different, but each battle stage takes place in the same type of environment. The battles themselves don't have much variety. It's either find the targets, then attack a base, or chase down a missile. So once again, we have a new potential way for the series to continue. Command introduces a lot of new ideas, but doesn't fully capitalize on them. Add in some battle variety, tweak the difficulty here and there, and this could be another home run. But this too wasn't meant to be. In a 4-year span, Nintendo released 3 Star Fox games. Each of them were overseen by Nintendo, but developed by different studios. Each of them were acclaimed in some way, but not huge critical or commercial successes either. I can't find exact sales figures, but Assault reportedly didn't break 1 million units, and Command didn't break 500,000. All 3 games present a potential path forward. All 3 depart from the formula 64 did so well, but none of them make a game that's as quote-unquote Star Fox as that one. This begs the question, was Miyamoto right? do we actually not want what's been done before? I mean, certainly there wouldn't be any harm in doing the same thing again, right? Well, to find that answer, we'll need to look somewhere else in the cosmos. Katamari Damacy had an irreversible impact on my psychological development. I would sit in the back of a classroom and imagine a giant sticky ball of junk rolling up everything inside. I was once at a stadium imagining a Katamari just rolling up all of the seats. I would clean up the desk in my room so any potential Katamaris couldn't get any bigger. It was an obsession that lasted for years, I tell you. And why wouldn't it? Katamari Damacy is a perfect pick-up-and-play game. A tiny prince rolls a sticky ball around an environment. If the ball comes into contact with anything smaller than it, it will stick, making the ball larger. What starts with rolling up thumbtacks on a table can eventually engulf whole buildings and land masses. When the time is up, the prince shows his Katamari ball to his ruthless father, the king of all cosmos. He will criticize it, then transform it into a star, slowly relighting the night sky. Katamari is about controlled chaos. Listen to the wacky music, destroy the world, get yelled at, make a star. It's simple, effective fun that will lead to a lifelong sticky ball addiction. The first Katamari Damacy game was kind of a surprise hit for Namco. A game this weird, this unapologetically Japanese, struck a chord internationally. The series creator, Keita Takahashi, wasn't thrilled about making a sequel though. It reportedly took a bit of convincing to get him on board for a second game. And oh man, I'm so glad he was. Point blank, We Love Katamari is a masterpiece. Katamari Damacy is a classic, but We Love Katamari is the stuff of legends. It pushes the concept to the absolute extreme, taking the simple gameplay loop in some truly wild and wonderful directions. The first Katamari Damacy has 21 stages. The first is a tutorial. 10 are Make a Star stages. In these, the King of All Cosmos will task the prince with growing the Katamari to a certain size within a time limit. The other 10 stages have different win conditions. 6 of these judge the player on how many of a certain object they're able to roll up. When they have to make the constellation Cygnus, the player is graded only on how many swans they have added to their ball. Obviously, the larger the Katamari, the more swans they can get, but the size of the ball isn't what's ultimately important. 2 stages ask the player to roll up only one of a certain object. They can only roll up a single cow for Taurus or bear for Ursa Major, and are judged on the size of that one cow or bear. These are by far the most annoying stages in the entire game. One stage makes the player get their Katamari to the exact size by eyeballing it, and one stage is the credits. 21 stages total with some variety mixed in. Great. So what about the second game? We Love Katamari has 28 stages. One is a tutorial again, but this time around there are only 5 classic Make a Star stages. These end up trimming some of the fat though. In the first game, the goals go from 10 centimeters to 20 to 50, then to a meter, then a meter and a half, then 3 meters. 6 stages. In We Love Katamari, the goals go from 15 centimeters to 40 centimeters to 3 meters. 3 stages. The same scale in half the time. 20 of We Love Katamari's stages are different in some way. 3 of them have the player reach a certain size while rolling in a unique environment, like a racetrack or underwater. 6 of them involve rolling up one specific item. Get as many flowers as you can, for example. 3 stages impose strict limits. There's one where the player can only roll up 50 items total. How big can you get your Katamari with such a strict constraint? There's another where the player has to roll up 100 objects as fast as possible. And the stage where you have to get the Katamari an exact size returns. The single item challenge is now only 1 stage instead of 2, so that's a relief. 2 stages play with the temperature of the Katamari, one hot, one cold. 2 stages judge the player on something other than size. 1 stage makes the player roll up expensive things, so the total cost of the Katamari is what the player is being judged on. Another, my favorite stage, involves pushing a sumo wrestler around to roll up as many calories as possible to make him gain weight. Did I mention that this game is incredible? 3 are finale type stages, followed by a credit stage and a bonus stage. So, look at all of this. We Love Katamari pushes the original concept to the absolute limit. It trims the fat while introducing a swath of new ideas. Yet, through all this, the game retains its original core mechanics. In every stage, the player will roll Katamaris with the same control method, but each stage will be wildly different from the one that came before it. We Love Katamari fully delivers on the potential of the original game. What next? Well, if you're Keita Takahashi, you'll step away from the series to make some new, interesting stuff. If you're Namco, you'll make some more Katamari games. Except, there's one problem. We Love Katamari already did pretty much everything. The third game in the series is Me and My Katamari for the PSP. It has 22 stages. There's a tutorial, 16 classic Make-A-Star levels, and only 5 special request stages. It feels like a sequel to the original game, in that it focuses on basic meat and potatoes Katamari rolling. No gimmicks, no frills, just roll and roll and roll. In fairness, Me and My Katamari is what a portable Katamari game should be. It's rolling on the go. Even though it doesn't introduce many new ideas, it accomplishes what it set out to do, even if there's not much reason to return to it today. The fourth game, Beautiful Katamari for the Xbox 360, is where things start to feel a little tired. The base game features only 15 stages. 1 is a tutorial, 9 are Make-A-Star stages, 2 are special request stages, 1's a credit stage, and 2 are in-game finale type stages. When it comes to presenting new ideas, it doesn't do anything especially unique. The only new type of stage is one where the player has to get the Katamari up to a certain temperature. It's kind of like a stage from We Love Katamari, but the end goal is different. This game also went headfirst on downloadable content, so there are actually 7 more stages that aren't in the base game, but these also repeat ideas that we've seen before. Make an expensive Katamari, get your Katamari to a specific size, that sort of thing. Beautiful Katamari is a fun game, don't get me wrong, but it feels like it's treading water. The series isn't being pushed in any new direction or being tinkered with at all. It feels like just another Katamari game, only this time on the 360. The next game in the series is Katamari Forever for the PlayStation 3, touted as a greatest hits compilation for the series. It is by far the largest Katamari game with 34 whole stages from the preceding entries. You want the most Katamari for your dollar? Look no further. But as with most greatest hits compilations, there's nothing really new here. Of the 34 stages, only 3 are new to Katamari Forever. It's fun to have all these levels in one place, but again, we've seen this before. The series continues to tread water. Touch My Katamari on the PlayStation Vita feels rather phoned in. It only has... okay, why is his face like that? Okay, so Touch My Katamari only has 12 stages. It adds the ability to change the shape of the ball using the Vita's touchscreen, but it's not really, important. Moving on. At the end of the day, Katamari is a game about rolling a ball around. It's simple and straightforward, something that allowed the original game to lodge itself in the subconscious of many players around the world. But despite the wild art direction and zany tunes, there's admittedly not a whole lot to it. It's marvelous that We Love Katamari is as adventurous as it is. It takes that germ of an idea and stretches it as far as it'll go, but once it's been stretched, where else is there to go? Unlike Star Fox, which has many planets and ships and characters, Katamari is decidedly only this one thing. It has an unmistakable identity, and changing that would upend the whole thing. Fox McCloud can have a Zelda-like game, but can the Prince? Probably not. I keep thinking back to Shigeru Miyamoto asking, "What do you want that we haven't done before?" And after seeing how tired the Katamari series became over its run, I totally see what he's getting at. What else could Katamari possibly do? Then again, Katamari is a unique case. What about a series that tries to be everything? Banjo-Kazooie is proof that a little charm can go a long way. Released in 1998 on the Nintendo 64, though I'm playing the shiny remaster, it's arguably the best 3D platformer on that system. You can tell a lot about a person by if they prefer Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie. The game stars Banjo the Bear and Kazooie the Bird, traveling through the endless lair of Gruntilda the Witch in a quest to save Banjo's sister from her evil clutches. The duo is tasked with collecting jigsaw puzzle pieces, or jiggies, which are awarded after completing some sort of task. There isn't much in the way of instruction. The player will have to explore each world and figure out what they need to do. There are 10 Jiggies in each of the 9 levels and the hub world, for a total of 100. Each level also contains 100 musical notes that open doors, 2 health upgrades, and 5 of these Jinjo creatures, who will give you a Jiggy for finding them all. Each level becomes a well-manicured scavenger hunt. The player is always finding something at every turn. Over the course of their adventure, Banjo and Kazooie can learn several moves that will help them along their way. There are 9 in total. These include the Talon Trot for steep surfaces, Egg Aiming to shoot projectiles, Shock Spring for long jumps, and Flying, to name a few. As their quest continues, the levels get larger and the duo's moveset will grow, but it remains easy to grasp. Banjo-Kazooie never gets overly complex or overwhelming. It strikes a nice balance between being opaque and inviting, while maintaining its trademark humor. Banjo-Kazooie is a classic, a must-play N64 title that's just begging for a sequel. Luckily, one would arrive 2 years later. Banjo-Tooie. Now, I know there are games that are larger than Banjo-Tooie, but Banjo-Tooie feels massive. The levels are larger, the game has a lot more moving parts, it takes significantly longer to finish. This sequel expands on the original in every conceivable way. In Tooie, the events of the previous game actually happened. The first game ends with them defeating Gruntilda the Witch. She falls from her tower and, actually dies. Tooie begins with her sisters resurrecting her, and then seeking revenge on the bear and bird. Since the characters remember the events of the first game, it's only natural that Banjo and Kazooie remember all the moves they learned in the previous game too. That's right, when the game starts, they have access to every single move they learned on their last journey. On top of those, the player learns new moves this go around. In the first game, there were 9 new moves. In the second, there are 20. 20! Kazooie can shoot 5 types of eggs instead of just 1. There are some more underwater moves. The duo can split up and learn moves on their own as well. In Kazooie, the duo could visit Mumbo Jumbo in certain levels, and he'd transform them into an ant or crocodile or whatever. In Tooie, they can take control of Mumbo for a while and have him use his magic in different places. But the transformations are still there. This time, each level has its own unique thing Banjo can turn into, courtesy of a new character, Humbawamba. These transformations are used to open paths or collect Jiggies. Tooie has 8 major levels and a hub world for a total of 90 Jiggies. But don't let that smaller number fool you. These levels are gigantic. Retrieving a Jiggy can be a long, arduous task. Tooie's levels are interconnected, which makes its world feel more lived in. With only one exception, every Jiggy in the first game can be found in the player's first visit to each world. In Tooie, the player can only pick up a handful of Jiggies the first time around. They'll have to backtrack to previous levels once they've unlocked a needed ability. Tooie also has a boatload of mini-games that reward the player with Jiggies. It also features first-person segments where Banjo uses his bird friend as a gun. Boss battles appear too, which didn't happen in the original game until the very end. The sequel to Banjo-Kazooie expands on its ideas in every possible way. Almost a little too much, if you ask me. This game is ambitious and massive, but also a touch convoluted. The levels are more difficult to navigate. The player gets those precious Jiggies less frequently. For each fun edition, there's one that's rather annoying. But more importantly, Banjo-Tooie sets a precedent. Each new Banjo game will build on top of what came before. Each new entry will be larger than the last one. The Banjo-Kazooie games were developed by Rare, the same studio responsible for Star Fox Adventures, coincidentally. After Microsoft acquired them in 2002, the studio and its original characters became exclusive to Xbox. In 2006, a new trailer teased Banjo-Kazooie's grand return, their first game on the then-new Xbox 360. The hype was very much real. The game would release in 2008, and it wasn't at all what people were expecting. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts forgoes the classic platformer-style gameplay in favor of a series of vehicle-based missions. That's right, Banjo and Kazooie will have to make custom vehicles to overcome a series of challenges with a set of wheels, or wings, or whatever. The aesthetics are Banjo-Kazooie, the name is Banjo-Kazooie, but the gameplay is decidedly not Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Tooie set up a pattern though. Each game is canon, and the characters remember what came before. So when a new game wants to take things in a decidedly different direction, what do? When Nuts and Bolts begins, Banjo and Kazooie have just been sitting around for 8 years. This is the in-universe reason for them forgetting their moves from the previous 2 games. Then Gruntilda shows up, they're about to fight, but are interrupted by the Lord of Games, or Log. There's a lot of talk about making a new collectathon, how platformers are outdated, and how unoriginal it is to go on yet another jiggy scouting adventure. They even go so far as to prove it by having Banjo collect a bunch of objects in a row. See? Collectathon! Is this really what you want? Log then introduces the vehicle mechanic and whisks them away to a brand new world. This intro is bad. I'm sorry. This sets the game off on the worst possible foot. I can see how this would be hilarious if you had to sit through a bunch of pitch meetings with Microsoft, but, I wasn't in those meetings. I'm just trying to build cars, man. Even beyond the intro, the game feels incredibly self-conscious. I don't know if that's an adjective I've used to describe any other game before. The first level is a farm. It's classic first level fare. The second level is Logbox 720, which takes place in the guts of a game console. There are jokes about gamer culture as well as references to Rare's past output, including discs of the first 2 Banjo games. But then the third level is called Banjo Land. It's a museum dedicated to those first 2 Banjo games. This game is so self-obsessed, but also self-loathing. I know these are jokes, but I mean, it gets to a point, man. Here's what it feels like. Nuts and Bolts is a brand new thing. A traditional Banjo 3E would just collapse under the weight of what came before. Tooie already feels too big for its bones, and I shudder to think what would happen if they continued adding on top of it. Some trimming would be in order, but that would inevitably disappoint people. You mean it's a 360 game and it's smaller? Scaling things back has never been Rare's style anyway. So instead of opening that can of worms, Nuts and Bolts introduces an entirely new gameplay system. It's really fun, and it's all about using creativity to solve problems, which I love. But it doesn't feel like Banjo-Kazooie anymore. The game feels like it has to constantly remind you that it's Banjo-Kazooie, which in turn makes it hard to forget that I'm not currently playing a traditional Banjo-Kazooie. By being so ambitious and including so many ideas, Banjo-Tooie exhausts a lot of the potential the series had. The pattern it establishes isn't exactly viable for a multi-game run. Even though it's not what the masses wanted, I do think taking the series in a new direction was a smart move. If only it was allowed to be its own thing and bring more of its own personality to the table instead of rehashing what we've already seen before. When things start to get rehashed, it's a bad sign. 3 Star Fox games released in the 2010s, and they couldn't be further away from the adventurous spirit of the games from the 2000s. 2011 saw the release of Star Fox 64 3D, a remake of the 1997 classic for the 3DS. What better game to show off a fancy new 3D screen than a rail shooter with a bunch of stuff coming at you? It's a perfect fit. But it's a pretty standard remake. Besides the 3D, it doesn't offer anything new for the series. Star Fox Zero arrived on the Wii U in 2016. This one's weird. It exists to show off the Wii U, but it's also a victim of the Wii U. The controls of this game are notoriously odd. The main screen shows a third-person view, while the gamepad shows a first-person cockpit view. The direction the control sticks are pushed relates to the first-person view, so it kind of feels like survival horror tank controls in your action-packed space shooter. It works when the third-person camera is behind Fox's vehicle, but when it's not, this game gets really frustrating really fast. If you've ever wondered how a Star Fox would play if you couldn't see what's going on, this game answers that question. Story-wise, this game is back to basics. It has the subtitle Zero, after all. It is yet another retelling of Team Star Fox protecting the Lilat system from Andross. No new characters or locations from Adventures, Assault, or Command appear. It looks and sounds a lot like a certain game from 1997. In 2017, the original shelved version of Star Fox 2 was officially released on the Super Nintendo Mini. It would later be added to the Switch Online subscription service. Even though the ROM had been floating around online for ages, it was nice to see this game get an official release. This one obviously looks backwards since it's literally a game from the 90s, but still, it's yet another entry in the series that looks backwards. In the 2010s, we had a remake of Star Fox 64, a reimagining of Star Fox 64, and an original prototype of Star Fox 64. 3 attempts to recapture the magic of a bygone era. After a huge hit, what is supposed to happen? Where is a franchise supposed to go? Star Fox 64, We Love Katamari, and Banjo-Tooie are second games in their series that capitalize on the potential of their first games, and each entry more or less stunted their series. In the case of Star Fox 64, the team felt like they had perfected the rail shooter formula and delivered the best game they possibly could have. Every attempt to branch the series out into something new was met with mixed results, never hitting another home run. For We Love Katamari, a key creative force reinvented his own idea several times over, resulting in a game that's all over the place in the best way possible. After that creative force moved on to other projects, the series lost its original spark, doomed to repeat itself over and over again. And with Banjo-Tooie, a sequel established a pattern of building on top of what came before, adding so much stuff that it teeters on the edge of bloat. The only option that made sense was to push things in a new direction, even though it ended up alienating longtime fans. There's always been this tug of war between art and business, and it's felt especially hard in the realm of video games. How does something get made that's adventurous and unique while still being marketable? That's an eternal problem that I don't think will ever get solved. That issue gets compounded when working within an established franchise. Keep things fresh, but don't go off the rails. Surprise your audience, but don't alienate them. Make it marketable, but don't sell out. It's an impossible jungle of expectations studios have to carve a path through. If the goal is to make money and develop a recognizable brand, making a bunch of sequels to a successful game makes all the sense in the world. But when a series is functionally done, when the creators have said all they want to say, how should it continue? What do you want that we haven't done before? Some sequels are so good they more or less ruin their series. But that's okay. They were made with magic after all. Certainly there are even more sequels that fit the bill. Leave a comment about your favorite down below. Be sure to like the video, share it, and subscribe if you're not already. And also check out the I Am a Dot Patreon. If you'd like to see new episodes days before they drop on YouTube, have your name in the credits, or watch over 30 bonus videos, that's the place to be. Thank you so much for your support.
Every day we play Anatato. Every day we play